Hello and welcome to the another episode of Flutter Factor. This show is all about Flutter development and meeting new people. Today I have two great developer in the Flutter field. I have Vidya Prakash as an external speaker, and I have Gayathri as an internal speaker from GeekyAnts. And today's topic is going to be about performance optimization in Flutter. So I'll just hand over Vidya Prakash to introduce himself.
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. And essentially, I'm a Flutter developer at Uni Cards. I started with Flutter around 3-4 years back, in 2019, I guess. Since then, I've been doing Flutter. Yeah, that's about it.
How about you, Gayathri? I mean, I just want to know we have a specific thing on this show that we usually ask, that how you guys started doing Flutter.
Yeah.
So I just want to know how you started doing Flutter.
So basically, I am from a computer science engineering background. So I have came into Flutter development during my pre-final year actually. So I have been working on Flutter since starting from its beta stage. So currently I have been at GeekyAnts and building stuffs in Flutter. So I have been getting involved in building up products on side by side. I have been into some of the projects also. So apart from working in GeekyAnts, I have been also occasionally a tech speaker, and I was very much interested towards expressing my thoughts and insights via technical write-ups. And also I am very much glad that I have been into that Flutter and witnessing its growing day by day.
I mean, yes, that's true. Flutter is just so much catchy to each and every developers. Like whoever started it, they never went back by saying that, oh, I don't like the development part of the Flutter. I mean, there are some minor issues in terms of, if you don't have a object-oriented knowledge, then you might face an issues. But that's not a development part, right? So we have a saying over here that you are just once a Flutter developer, always a Flutter developer.
Very true.
Yeah.
So I mean, most of the developers agrees that they started development in Flutter and then they never went back because the ease of development and the way they have designed the APIs. I mean, I always say this in almost most of the videos. The APIs they have designed, the widgets they have designed, they are so easy and simple to understand as well as to remember. I mean, that has been a great thing from the Flutter side. So coming back to our today's topic, we are going to talk about performance optimization in Flutter. So I mean, we have Gayathri over here who has been doing a lot of project in GeekyAnts, working with few packages as well as having a lot of blog posts on hash nodes. Also working and developing few packages on pub.dev. So what are the common blockage in terms of performance average developer could face in the Flutter development?
Yeah. Well, as a developer, when a Flutter developer tends to develop an app, they tends to face several performance challenges actually. With they face other than some challenges apart from performance and optimization, but performance and optimization seems to be a vital role in user experiences, right? So we tends to face several challenges such as slow UI rendering, later startup time, and mainly excessive app size. And these challenges may leads the developers to face the issues longer startup time and unwanted widget rebuilding, and sometimes without any issues the user may tends to get exited from the app, and the apps may tends to crash. So this seems to be the major concerns from developer point of view, I think.
I totally agree on what are the concerns you actually told about that. As a average developer, you might fall into these issues, because once I was into that stage where I used to just follow all this all this part as a very basic blockage. But then when we understand about the flow and stuff, we can easily understand how exactly the complete widget rendering is work, or how set state is working, when to call, when not to call, right? And other different widgets where we can reduce our optimization. So also, coming back to the Vidya Prakash, I mean, he is an engineer at Uni Cards, working on, different POCs, as well as working on the Uni Cards mobile app itself. So, what would what would you regularly use to debug your performance, and what are those things which you usually use it to get rid of all those performance issues?
Yeah, that was a really good question, Hasnen. So to optimize your Flutter app, you have to know exactly what is going wrong with your app. So to do that, there are multiple ways. Like first of all, like the common problems, like Gayathri mentioned, we have issues with like jitter issues in your app with your animations, and maybe your rendering is too slow. UI thread is getting blocked due to that. Maybe that can be a reason. And you also you have to optimize your app size, because essentially the users don't want to keep an app which is too bulky in their app, like in their phones. So yeah, to optimize all those things, you should actually work on it while you're developing the app.
Right.
So it should not be done at the end of the whole development process, because then your app becomes it becomes a lot of work at once. So which you might miss a few things, and some of the things might go ignored. So for that, like you should always follow the best practices. Like the common practices, you should always have constant constructors with your widgets, and you should always refrain from using set state. Instead of that, maybe you can use value notifiers, or maybe you can use packages like Riverpod or Provider. Then after that, like you should always once you are done with your development of a certain feature, then you can basically test your application in profile mode. You should pick a decent device which is not too high end, not too low end, so that you can basically get a real-time scenario of your app's performance. Flutter Dev Tools provide you with a lot of good profiling options. You have performance overlay on your. You can in the profile mode, you can have it on your device and check in the real time which exact frame is taking too long, which of the frames are blocking your UI thread or the raster thread, and where you basically have the raster thread on the top and UI thread on the bottom. There are two graphs. So yeah, you can easily check nowadays people want to maintain at least a 60 FPS frame rate for your app.
Right.
So essentially you get around 16.67 seconds for a single frame. So whatever frames are taking more than that, you should go into those and try to optimize those. Also, there are some widgets which are very complex. For example, with widgets which do intrinsic calls. For example, like you have an intrinsic height and intrinsic width, which basically calculate the width of the child, and then so basically essentially they do the same thing 2 times just to render the widget. So you should not. Another example, like we have shrink wrap in our list styles, right? So if you make it true, then and if you have a list which is very long,
Right.
then basically it will render everything and calculate the height of the whole list view, and then tell it to its parent, so that basically the parent widget can incorporate it inside itself. So those kind of practices are not really very great. And also, instead of using a lot of nested widgets to maybe have a certain kind of shape of your widget, you can prefer using custom painter. Also, you can avoid using a lot of custom clippers. that is also there. It can also harm your performance. And then if you're building some complex animations sometimes in Flutter are like very complex and they can become a bottleneck for your app. Yeah, you should always check into those. And then in Flutter 3.10 we have like we got Impeller like which got stable for iOS. You should always keep it updated and like check out the new features. Yeah, if you do all these things, and it is like you have a very good chance to have your app very optimized and smooth.
That's a very detailed information, and there are so many points to pick it up to make your app performance to be smooth. Well, you were talking about the dev tools, and I guess I have got kind of good experience to work with the dev tools these days. We have been doing some Flutter package right now, and initially what we did was currently we are building that Flutter package from the scratch. It's just like we are not using any material or any Cupertino library. Instead of that, we are using the rendering engine of Flutter, and then painting and calculating everything on our own and developing those widgets. So initially what we did was we just created a leaf render object widget, and then we drawed everything at the one place. But now we have separated each and every widget so that we can easily inspect those widgets in the dev tools. We can see which widget is taking how much of height and width, or what's the offset of that widget. So it's really helpful to inspect. If you are a web developer, you always inspect your website in the Chrome by just clicking right click and then inspect element, right? That's what a similar thing we have in the Flutter as well. So when you build your widget from very scratch, those things will help you a lot to understand what is going wrong with your widget when you inspect with it. We faced one issue was that paint, we were able to paint, but we were not able to update the offsets of our parent widget. So the elementary was not having a correct information on where exactly that particular widget is lying on the screen. So when we inspect on the screen, our inspection shows somewhere else, but when we see the widget, that specific widget on the screen, it's somewhere else. So basically, these are the things which we should also take care to have your data aligned. Of course, that is have an effect on the performance as well. So I guess DevTools is a very great performance enabling tool where you will have a very great insight of how your app is doing, where your app is breaking or taking some long time to render your any XYZ widget, right? So that was a very detailed information to have on about the optimization on the Flutter app. Since we have a Gayathri who, as I mentioned, has worked on a lot of projects, I wanted to ask, like a real time or a real life example of, have you been to a situation where any client or any app was in a bad state? You developed it, or some XYZ developers developed it, and which was in a very bad state, and then you utilized a DevTools, and using that DevTools, you really made that app from bottom to the top in terms of performance.
Absolutely, Hasnen. I can able to share some 2 to 3 situations. So recently, I have got into a project. As Vidya Prakash have mentioned, we should be starting the performance optimization from the start of the development. But there I have actually got into the phase where the development phase is almost going to completed. It is almost ready for the release, but it is facing most of the network performance issues and some kind of lagging of network issues for retrieving some data. So there I have assigned a role of taking care of apps performance issues. So there I have actually adopted a technique using it was so simple, but the thing is like we have not adopted it that time. That was the problem actually. So we have adopted a technique called lazy loading. So you maybe have got familiar with that, I think.
Yeah.
So that after like approaching with the lazy loading approach, we can able to enormously reduce the network request time. Also the rate of and the number of times the network is getting requested to the server or the SDK is got reduced. The count is lower compared to before. And then also it have actually enhanced the request timing, how the actually it has happened because we are not fetching up it directly. We are fetching it on demand, rather than getting it from upfront. We are loading it from on demand, based on some range. So fixing up this range, I've optimized it more. So I think you could have also experienced this in most e-commerce applications and those things. And also the second point I would like to share is you may have also mentioned during the intro time, during the initial phase, you will get you structure the project in a way that it will get rebuilding every time unwantedly. So where it don't there is no need for any rebuilding or something.
Right.
There I have recently leveraged the usage of block package, actually block state management. It has actually made the code more readable, and also the architecture seems to be more clean and maintainable actually. Because once after the development phase, the app is not going to be completed. Right. It has to be maintained by different people or same people. Right. But even a single command can change the whole workflow.
Agree.
So that's why usage of block, we have avoided unwanted rebuilding of widgets, and also it have made the code more readable and maintainable. Because it was a long-term project, so we had different phase of teams getting involved.
Right.
So it made the developers to adopt the project structure very easily, where the performance also they can include any functionality even at any time. We can able to adopt at any time.
Right.
That may I know it may occur in Uni Cards also sometimes, because as it is a consumer facing app, there we need to come up with new feature updates on short time interval.
Exactly. Actually, we were once we were also exploring block, but we found out it to be very verbose. So we preferred using Riverpod instead of that. So it makes it very smoother, and nowadays it the upgraded Riverpod also has generators, so it almost your efforts become half of what you have to do in block. So for that reason we preferred
So I guess this is the another episode where we came again at the point where we are talking about the state management. And it's always controversial. So Gayathri agreed on block, but you denied on block, right? So this is going to be an always controversial, and I guess in most of the episodes this has happened. Somewhere, if the topic is any topic it is, we just come up at this point where we start talking about the state management. And I guess this happened at the every single meetup or every single conference. When you just go ahead and grab a coffee with any XYZ developer in the conference, the topic of state management is always going to be there.
Yeah, I guess that is because it's unlike other frameworks. In Flutter, we have a lot of good options. In other frameworks, I feel there are a certain number of options, out of which one of those or two of those are really better than others. But in terms of Flutter, I feel almost there are multiple options which are very good. With the block, I'm not totally against block. I just feel that it is too verbose. You have to write a lot of boilerplate, but that also gives you a good benefit, so to say. it creates your project architecture. It makes it very clean. So that is there with blog. But yeah, you have to create a set, like you have to look at your use case and you have to choose accordingly. Some people also use GetX, which is basically like very simple. Even
Actually, it depends on situations and the use case which we are working on.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess since we are talking about the performance optimization, and obviously the state management technique comes into a performance optimization as well. It's not just hold about the separation of your code, or it's not just about refreshing data on your screen without doing some refresh button or something. But what you have in your hand is you can, as you mentioned in the previous statement, that having a proper state management technique into your mobile app can also help to reduce your state performance. When you can get the smooth or the buttery UI or whatever the data flow you have. Since we talked about the state management as well, but we are also in the term, this episode is mainly focusing on the performance optimization. Obviously, the state management comes into a performance optimization because it's not just updating data on the screen, but how nicely and how good way you upgrade your data or update your data on the screen. It should be very smooth and buttery as well, because there should be no janks involved when you do such things. Gayathri talked about the network part, that she worked on some project where she made a performance regarding to the network side, right? I guess the very important aspect on the network side is not just getting the JSON data, but I guess once we receive the URL of any media or any image on the network side, it does take some time to load into our UI on the front end side, right? So what are those mechanisms you are using to get that image rendered fastly? And then also when you scroll up or scroll down, the scroll up and scroll down should be frequently easy, because when you bring in your list view or any image comes in, I mean, it should load quickly or it should preload it. So are you using any algorithm to preload your image or any media?
Yeah, actually, yeah, we are actually doing that. So yeah, just like Gayathri mentioned in one of the conversations earlier, like app size issues and like getting assets from the network can be challenging and make your app feel laggy and bulky. So to resolve those, like go-to methods are basically caching. So we have implemented our own caching, although we also have a library in Flutter which is very famous called cached network image, right? We were using that, but even after using that, like we were facing issues in our app where like assets from the network were getting very slowly loaded, and we had to show a lot of placeholders, which makes the user experience very bad. So we decided, like one of my colleagues took the initiative and implemented a whole caching algorithm by himself. Like
Nice.
Basically what he did was for in our CDN we configured it in such a way, whenever we like basically push an image to the CDN, it creates a hash and it stores with the image. Like it has the same name as the image, but has a postfix to the same name. So before fetching the actual image, we check the hash first, and then we check if the local cached image also has the same hash. Then if that case is satisfied, then we basically load the image from the cache, which is very quick and snappy. And only in case the hash doesn't match, we get it from the CDN. So that was to optimize the network images. Also, assets can basically make your app bulky in terms of app size. So you should always I missed this point in before when we were talking about performance optimization and best practices. So this is one of those things where you always have to keep a check on the size of the assets which you are basically including in your package or the bundle of the app. So yeah, that is there. And also one more thing you can do to reduce your app sizes to keep in check the libraries which you are importing, right? So new developers mostly do this. Like they just copy, import some libraries and use maybe one or two use cases which that library is providing, which is I mean, which is not too bad, but yeah, like it can harm your app size. So basically, if you essentially want to use the library, what you can do, and if you only have a small use case, then you can basically like all the Flutter libraries are mostly like open source. So basically, you can directly go to the GitHub page, like repository, and just like if you want to copy the code, you can just copy it or take inspiration from it and build your own widget, right? That'll that can basically reduce the app size. And then like there is one more technique I recently read about. Basically, you can defer your imports. So basically, you don't have to bundle the libraries within the app. This is only available in Android right now because iOS doesn't support, not iOS, actually, Apple policies don't support just-in-time compilation. So because of that reason, it is only available in Android right now, where you can basically defer your imports. You can mention certain libraries as deferred while importing those. And you can basically initialize the library in the init state of the widget, where basically the library is downloaded and imported into the app in the runtime. So basically, you don't have to make your app bulky and unnecessary. So that can be a good technique as well.
Yeah. In addition to what you have shared with Prakash, like we had a situation where we need to like implement image casting mechanism. That giving a shot of a real-time example, we may like all encounter like while uploading a status or an image to WhatsApp, it will be getting compressed a little.
Right.
Yeah, so we should be following that approach. We should not like directly bring our assets or fetching up things directly with the same quality. So it may like bring up more it may result in more memory usage, because anyway it is going to be stored in temporary file or somewhere. So we should be taking care of like compress the image formats. So implementing this approach in one of our application have like greatly enhanced helped us to reduce our application size. Enormously means like almost like 50 to like 60%. So it have like, so yeah, a small logic can plays a vital role. Because only through like experiences like we get to know we will come up with new solutions. So once you got like with that hands-on experience, you will be coming up with more like techniques in more optimized way.
Right. Also, adding to your optimization of an media before uploading it, or maybe after uploading it. But once we receive it back, it should be always stored as an optimized media. But again, there are few important things which we need to take care of, that you should be using some good algorithm to optimize your image. That is so obvious, because what happens that we might just go ahead and search and read some blog which might be doing optimization in just one line, and it could can take the quality all away of your image or your media. So that should be also be taken care. I mean, you can have your own algorithm of image optimization or a media optimization, which is, I feel it's a different project itself. I mean, writing an algorithm for optimization for any media, it is going to be a video, or maybe a normal image can be a different part. But yeah, I mean, that's a very important point, to have your media stored in optimized way, so that you can save up on your server space as well. And when it comes to a demanding image, it just load up very quickly. I mean, if the image size is around 10 MB, then obviously having a 10 MB image, getting 10 MB in just few seconds is not possible. I mean, you need to optimize it to have a better quality image, as well as it should load in a few seconds. So those are the important points to make your app size. Of course, the app size as well as the performance of your app to be in time, and it should feel smooth while using it. There are lots of points to discuss on the performance optimization,
Yeah,
but since
actually, as an important point which shared by Vidya Prakash, also we had this discussion before. I think, Kasni, in initial time, you told like you will be using even packages for slider from directly from pub.day. So instead of creating it for small use case, we will be importing the complete package into our app.
Yeah.
So we should taking care of that thing also online.
right.
Yeah.
I think there is one more point in my mind which comes in terms of in a performance view. We just talked about the performance while the development, but how about you can increase your performance even after shipping your app by analyzing how your app is doing in terms of analytics. What maybe if you can give an insight on what tools you're using to analyze your app performance in terms of where your users are high and then where your users are doing maybe in terms of a layman example, that you have a button where you have a two button where one button is being clicked more but the other button is not being clicked more, right? So in terms of that, what are the tools you're using to get your best out of in terms of performance?
Yeah, that is a great question actually. Because once you have released your app, you have very little control over it. Like it's not like a web app that you update the server and it's like everywhere. Whoever is using it, they are using the updated version. It's not like that because user has to download your app.
Right.
So the best you can do is just monitor your app's performance. So and like improve maybe in the next release and provide the solutions wherever like users are getting stuck or something. So for this we have multiple tools. I know of two such great tools. Like I have experience working with one is called Sentry, which is basically a APM. It provides you it provides you multiple metrics on your application, such as like frames of your app which are getting stuck, frozen frames. They call it frozen frames, and also like your navigation performance of your application, how long your app takes to navigate from one screen to other screen. They have a whole list of all the screens actually, and they tell you exactly how long is it taking to load up that screen.
Right.
So that gives you like really good insight about it. And yeah, they provide multiple such tools within the dashboard, where basically you can easily check what is going wrong with your app if there is something. And the another tool I really like using and I'm using in one of my personal projects right now is called Mixpanel.
Okay.
So it provides you, it is very similar, but it is more graph driven. So basically it gives you a really good insight about like the performance of the application, performance of the application essentially. Yeah. And apart from these two, you mentioned like you want to optimize some features, like you want to motivate maybe some behavior in your application, and you figure out like that is not happening. So for that, essentially what we do at Uni Cards is we have a service called Event Service. So where we basically create events on such like we have well-defined events. And whenever those events happen, we push that data into the server.
Right.
And we use MoEngage for that. So MoEngage basically provides us all the count and everything, how many times that event is happening and all those things. So whenever our product team comes up with some experiments to improve those, we just basically add another event and release that next version, and start noticing and observing the change in the user behavior or like experiment is working for us or it's working against us.
Right.
So we can easily monitor that with these tools.
So, I mean, there are a lot many things which we can discuss on
Yeah.
on the optimization of your app. But since we are running out of time, I mean, we have to wrap it up. I mean, before we wrap it up, I just want Gayathri to share some more tips to the viewers or the followers or whoever is watching this, and then maybe we can wrap it up.
Yeah, sure. Actually, I think like this will be a great add-on as a final notes to this talk. So the first and foremost thing which I like think or consider, like a developer should prioritize the performance and optimization starting from the scratch of development phase. Because there are several techniques and methods available, such a case consider of better layouting algorithms, in adopting techniques similar to kind of lazy loading and image catching mechanisms, and also we should have a better app startup time handling. So this will make the apps more optimized, and in performance wise it will be more good. Also it will make the user experience more enriched. Actually,
Right.
the main point of creating an app or delivering it is how it is available to the end user, right? So we should be more concerned about these things. And to second point to add on is a developer should be staying up to date with recent changes. They should be ready to adopt all the update, because in recent times we may know Flutter is coming with enormous feature updates and SDK improvements. Recently we have got out of the jank issues of iOS, and we are coming up with shaders, impellers, and rich distinct tools for Flutter Dev Tools thing. As Vidya Prakash told, we have performance overlay, those things. So the developer should be ensure that they are on the stable branch or stable or latest branch of Flutter SDK. So in order to have a better improvements to their application, in order to up to date with the recent changes to adopt. Because in before a year we don't have null safety, but after the upgrade we had that. So they should be stay up to date. And final note which I would like to share is we have a small discussion on using the packages, right? So we should use the package, of course, because there was vast collection and distinct package available in our pub.dev for various each and every use cases. But we should be very careful in picking up the package, because we are now in a situation where we had been developing, and we will be coming out with new package in upcoming days. So where we are going with a render object approach, actually, without going on the material package or usage of material thing. So from this way, we should be very concerned about what is the purpose and how it is going to affect the memory performance and those things to the application. So we should be taking care of that. These three things, I think most of them have covered all the points with respect to performance and those things.
Great tips, Gayathri, on those three. I mean, those 3 points are very important. I guess, as I said, we are running out of time. I would like Vidya Prakash to thank a very huge thank to join here as in person. And I would also like to thank Gayathri to be a part of this very insightful Flutter optimization. But thanks again for joining us. And it was a great to talk about Flutter performance optimization. And I guess we have kept a very vast and detailed point on the optimization of the Flutter. Thanks for joining in. We'll be back with another episode of Flutter Factor show. I'm your host, Hasnen Tai, signing off.